All right, so we are going to get started here. So let me kind of just explain kind of the whole process of what we're gonna do, what this looks like, and all that fun stuff. So when and I may have told you part of this already, so if I did, forgive me, but just a reminder of how it came about that I'm teaching the 12-hour New Agent course. I think I don't know, maybe I didn't tell you guys. So I'll kind of give you the story. So I have been doing these type of classes for over 15 years, and I was teaching, actually, I think it might have been even the CMA class. Yeah, I think it was. Anyway, and this agent had said they had to miss the class because they had to go do the 12-hour New Agent course at the board, because back then I didn't teach the 12-hour New Agent course, and the Division of Real Estate it's probably been about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, the Division of Real Estate is when they implemented this. Hey, during your first year or first 2 years of being a licensed agent, you have to attend this 12-hour New Agent CE course. So anyone can attend it, which is great, because I actually I get to give myself credit for the 12-hour New Agent CE class. Every time I teach the class, I can do that. When I say every time, meaning once every 2 years, I can give myself credit. But so part of my CE that I use every time is this. So just know you can always come and knock this out 12 hours of your CE, and it's all core by attending these. So, but I wasn't certified to teach it, whatever, at that point. The agent went to this 12-hour CE class at the board, and then the next week when he came back, I said, "Oh, how was the 12-hour New Agent course?" And he said, "It was really boring." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because everything you had taught us," so at that time, all of these 6 classes that are part of the 12-hour New Agent course, at that time, I was calling them tech skills classes. And so he said, everything you teach us in the tech skills is what they taught us in the 12-hour New Agent course. So I already knew it when I went to do it at the board. And so he said, "So I wish you were just approved and we could have just counted what you taught us as for that." And so I said, that's a good idea. I should go get approved to teach the 12-hour New Agent course. So I did. Now, so the reason I tell you all of that long story about that is because as part of that, though, when I submitted to the division to say, "Hey, I want to be approved to teach this," there are certain things that they require. So think of it this way. Most CE classes, most of the time, whoever's going to teach the class creates here's what I'm going to talk about, and sends it into the division and says, "Here's what I'm going to teach this class. Will you approve it for CE?" And then they decide yes or no. And then they also decide yes or no in terms of will it count as core CE or just regular. So, but the 2 classes, there may be more, but 2 that I know of, that the division has said this is what you have to teach, is the mandatory residential class and the 12-hour New Agent course. They have specific things like you need to teach this. And so I had to incorporate a few things into my training that I didn't have before. Now I tell you all that because what we're going to talk about right now is something that is part of that they want us to talk about. It's not something I traditionally had in the class, but it's great. And I think it's good that we talk about it. So, where we're going to start with, and so I'm noticing, so again, I think we've had at least one other person join since I think I said. So make sure you throw in the chat box if you haven't, if you're on Zoom, put in first and last name. And then also if you're wanting to get credit for the 12-hour, the CE credit, your camera has to be on too, Tony, just as a FYI. So anyway, all right, here we go. So we have to talk about what is the difference between a CMA and an appraisal. So that's where we're gonna start the class, is with me asking you guys the question of, what is the difference between a CMA and an appraisal?
Lender doesn't care about the CMA.
Okay, good, yeah, lender doesn't care, which, so is another good point, is the appraisal is done for who? The lender. It's, a lot of times we think of it as like, well, it's for the buyer, and yes, the buyer pays for it, but they're paying for it on behalf of the lender, and why does the lender care?
They want to know the value. They want to know what it's worth so that they can adjust
Yeah,
it.
if you were gonna,
It secures their assets.
yeah, if you were gonna give money, you wanna make sure you know, hey, am I gonna be able to get it back if they
Yeah.
don't pay me? And so, good, so keep that in mind, and the reason I say that is part of what you wanna make sure to help clients understand when you're working with, and specifically more so the sellers than the buyers, but letting the seller know that the purpose of the CMA is, it's not really to say, or not CMA, the appraisal. The purpose of the appraisal is not necessarily to say this is what the house is worth. I mean, it is, but really it's, the main thing for the lender is it at least worth this? And so I will usually tell the sellers, because sometimes sellers will be like, hey, what did it appraise for? What did it appraise for? And I always tell the sellers that typically the appraisal is gonna come in either right at value, or it might be slightly above value. And I tell them, part of the thinking on that is, if it came in, like, let's say that the house was worth $50,000 more, and they appraised it and said it was worth $50,000 more, what's the seller gonna do if they found out, oh, my home's worth $50,000 more than we're under contract at? Potentially, what's the seller gonna do?
They're gonna be like, well, we wanna cancel the contract and get 50 grand.
Yeah, hey, if my house, you ripped me off as my agent, so I always just tell them, like, the appraisers somewhat just appraise for at value, or maybe a $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 more. And the idea is, it kind of then helps the buyer feel like, okay, I'm getting some equity, but it also has the seller not feel like they're underpriced their home. It really, the purpose though is just, the bank just cares, is it worth at least this amount of money? Therefore, the appraiser's not necessarily coming in and saying this is what it's worth. Now, with that being said, which is more accurate, a CMA or an appraisal?
Appraisal.
Okay, we have one saying appraisal. Any other thoughts? Zoom, what do you guys think? I don't know if I have the sound turned up. It could be talking to us, we don't even know.
Does appraisal take into account?
I think I take that back.
Yeah.
Changing your mind? Nobody on Zoom wants to speak up? Or do I have them?
Appraisal goes into more detail.
I'm thinking appraisal is more accurate, Russ.
Okay, so you're saying appraisal, what's,
Someone has to, person that's doing the appraisal, don't they have to be qualified to be able to do that and know, like,
they gotta be licensed?
a lot?
It has more detail.
Right.
Okay, it has more detail, okay? So, I don't know that there's a right answer for that, meaning, and probably what I should say is, there are gonna be times where probably the appraiser is more accurate, but I would say there are also many, many times where a CMA is more accurate. Now, here's why. So let's, as I answer this, gonna be kind of a, before I answer it, we're gonna take a little bit of a detour to get there, okay? So if I have a house here, and we're gonna get an appraisal done on it, or a CMA, but let's talk appraisal for now. So we're gonna do an appraisal on it. What are kind of the things that an appraiser is going to look at to establish the value of this house?
The condition,
Okay, good. So they're gonna look at the condition. What else?
Up to code.
Lot size.
Lot size, okay, good. What did you say, Carla?
Up to code.
If it's up to code, okay, good. What else?
Is location one?
Good. So in terms of location, what about it?
If it's in nicer neighborhoods or not as nice of a neighborhood?
Okay, good. And so, but in addition to that, I like that, you're right on. But how far away location-wise will they go?
Less than 3 miles, right?
So typically, they're gonna wanna stay within like a mile of it, okay? And with that being said, one of the comparables that they get within this, ideally, they have at least one of the comparables in the exact neighborhood that the property is located in. So ideally, they want one that's, at least one that's right in the neighborhood that it's in. But, and as a kind of a general rule, think of it as, if they're gonna go outside further than about a mile, they're probably gonna have to justify why they're going that far away, okay? So good, what else? What else are they gonna look at?
Like where it is in reference to like certain cities or certain amenities or.
Okay, I'm gonna throw that under
That's
location.
under location too, yeah.
How about the style of home?
Style.
And how about size? Or we could say it as square footage. Right? Now, one other thing that I would add to this is age.
Yep.
Now, we could continue on and be beds, baths, and, you know, other amenities, that kind of stuff, but this is probably sufficient for right now. So, oh, actually, one other piece that I forgot. And in terms of that, the other thing they're looking at is only solds. They're only looking at properties that have sold. Why? Why do they only look at solds?
Cause the ones that are up for sale, you don't know if they're gonna get that or not.
Correct. Because, yeah, the ones that are just being marketed for sale, we don't know if they're actually gonna sell for that price. So really, they're looking at, okay, keep in mind, market value is established by what a buyer's willing to pay and a seller's willing to accept, and where those two meet is actually what's gonna determine the value of that property. Well, one of the things, and this is kind of just a side note, interesting thought for you, and you can challenge me on it if you want. But did you know that the moment you put a for sale sign in front of your house, the value of your house just dropped? And I can prove that if you would like me to. Would you like me to, or no?
Cause
You don't really care.
you're saying you're
yes,
willing
no.
to, yeah, it's like you're saying you're willing to sell it, you're kind of.
Yep, the fact that you're putting a for sale sign in front of your house, the value of your house just went down. So here's the proof. Who in here owns a house today that you do not want to sell? That you don't want to sell? Carla? Okay, so how much would you say your house is worth? Like if you were to sell it?
It's a townhome, probably $475.
So, okay, so it would be worth $475. So if I had a check here, or cash, whatever, for $475,000 today, would you give me your property?
Yep.
I thought you just said you don't want to sell it.
Well, that's top price, right, so maybe that would make me think twice.
Okay, well, so, but what's it really
Absolutely
worth?
don't wanna sell it.
No, like, what's the price that if you did put it up for sale, that you would accept an offer for today? Not today, if you were wanting to sell it. Like, what do you think so let me rephrase it. If your neighbor was gonna sell it, what would you say that the price would be?
$475.
Okay, and if I offered you $475 today, you would sell it? You would give me your property?
Or not, cause I
Well,
still
so
don't
wait,
wanna
you-
move it because of location.
Okay, so I'm confused though, because you said yes, now you're saying no. So is it yes or
Yeah,
no?
I said at first, no, I don't wanna sell it.
Okay, but if I
would,
If I had cash here today for $475, would you sell it to me today?
I know that's high, so yes, probably.
Okay, well, but if it's high, so you're
If
missing,
I got $475,
no, but you're missing the point. If that's high, then that's not what it would sell for.
no,
So what would it sell for?
probably $445.
Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. So really your house, if your neighbor was gonna sell it, if your neighbor's house was for sale, it'd be $445. So if I walked in today with cash of $445, would you sell it?
No.
Okay.
Because mine's better than the neighbor's.
So keep in mind, what determines value is what a seller's willing to sell for and a buyer's willing to pay. So if I'm saying I will give you $445, you're saying no. But if I said 475,
Yes.
so now notice, so if you were to list your house tomorrow, what would you list it for? Don't tell me 475, because if you really wanted to sell your house, you wouldn't list it for 475, would you? What would you list it for?
455.
Okay, so notice, the moment she puts her house up for
Yeah.
sale, it just
Yeah.
dropped in value by
Yep,
$20,000.
I agree, yep.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So Kenneth, keep in mind, somebody who doesn't wanna sell their house, you would have to pay them more money than it's worth to get them to sell it, because they don't wanna sell it. So what would be the value of their house would be higher. But the moment you put a for sale sign out, you're now saying, I'll take less for my house
Yeah.
than I would if I wasn't selling. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So so keep in mind, that's the idea of why they're only looking at sold properties, because just because I might be willing to pay one price and she's willing to accept another, until those two meet, we haven't established any value, okay? All right, so now, appraiser's gonna only use solds. Now, how far back though will they go on the solds? So typically, it's gonna be 6 months. The property's gonna have to have sold within 6 months for them to use it. Now, they can use something older, they're just gonna have to justify why they're using something older than that, and preferably, they want something sooner than that, in say like 60 to 90 days, is really what they want to have. Similar to me saying, they can go a mile out, but really, they want one within the neighborhood. Same thing on solds. Ideal would be one in the neighborhood that sold in the last few months. That's the best comp they can use, because then we know what a buyer was willing to pay in that neighborhood for a house similar to that one just within the last 3 months. Now for a minute, I'm gonna now sound like, though, I'm not a fan of appraisers. It's gonna sound like that. I'm not saying I'm not, because I am a fan of appraisers, but it might sound like I'm not. Because here's the problem for me. So when I asked you who's more accurate, the appraiser or the CMA, I will agree with you guys that it depends on who's doing it, is probably the truth of it, meaning there are appraisers that I don't care what appraisal they did, I would say theirs is less accurate than an agent's, and there's also agents that I would say are gonna be so bad that any appraiser is gonna do a better one. So I get that it kind of goes both ways. But for me, where I'm coming from on this of saying, I feel like we have a better feel for the market because we actually know what's currently going on in the market right now. Versus appraisers are looking at it and saying, okay, here's the solds in the last 3 months or 6 months. So what I guess I'm saying is appraisers are really, really good at telling you what the value used to be. I'm not so sure they're so good at predicting what it's going to be. And that's where I feel like, and that's probably the way I always should word this. They're awesome and great at telling you what it was in the past. We are better at predicting what it's gonna be in the next 30 to 60 days, which is probably more important than what it was 3 months ago. Now, there definitely are times in the market where, it's the same 3 months ago today as it was 3 months ago. But there are other times during COVID where it was changing rapidly, meaning like, if you looked at a comp from a month ago, you were not even close to where it was going to be. So kind of keep in mind, that's where for me, I feel like kind of the difference between an appraisal and a CMA is, the appraiser's telling you what it was, the CMA is us telling, hey, here's where it's probably going to be and what a buyer's going to be willing to pay for your house. Does that make sense? Okay, so now with that in mind, we always want to start with doing our CMA. I always still want to start with doing it similar to how an appraiser is going to do it, because we are going to end up dealing with that appraiser or dealing with an appraisal most of the time on the sale of the home. Most purchases have a loan on them, which means you're going to have an appraisal done a lot of the time. So as a result of that, we want to make sure that we are pricing it so that when an appraiser comes out, we have an idea of what comparables and all that kind of stuff that he's going to be using, or she, to value this property. Does that make sense? So that's what we're going to start with, okay? So I'm going to get the screen pulled down here. And projector turned on. And what we're gonna do, so Carolyn's thinking of selling her house, right?
I am definitely selling my
Oh,
house.
never mind. She is definitely selling her house. So we are, we're gonna help her decide. You guys, let me say it that way. You guys are gonna help her decide what she should list her home for.
Okay.
So this is gonna be fun. So we're gonna actually do a real one here. Okay, let me get my screen shared up here. There's the MLS there. Okay, so now, I haven't said this yet, but I'm about to say it. And you're gonna hear me say it a lot throughout this class. Doing a CMA is an art, it's not a science. Okay, so doing a CMA is an art, it is not a science. Close this so you guys here can see a little better. Okay. All right, so here's how, let me finish my thought on that. So doing a CMA is an art, it's not a science. And I'm gonna keep saying that. Doing a CMA is an art, it's not a science. I remember as a new agent, I wanted it to be a science. I wanted it to be a scenario where you could plug in, it's in this city, it's this style of home, it's this many square feet, it's this many beds, this many baths, blah, 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 and then have it spit out a number and boom, that's how much your house is gonna sell for. Unfortunately, it does not work that way. I wish it did. I still wish it did, but it doesn't. Instead, it is more of an art of putting it together than just plugging in and spitting out numbers, okay? And so, to some extent, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, that's going to rely on you. And so one of the things that I will recommend that you do if you're not comfortable doing CMAs, you need to start just doing every week, do a CMA. Pick a house, any house, doesn't matter. Go on the MLS, find a house and go, okay, I'm going to run a CMA on this house and see what I think it should sell for. Then track it to see if it actually sells for that. That's when you're going to get the confidence in it, and you'll also develop this sixth sense, I guess, so to speak. Meaning, every person who does a CMA is going to have slight variances in how they do it. So I'm going to show you the way that I do it. That doesn't mean it's the right way, meaning if Jason was up here teaching it, he'd probably have a slight variation. Ruby might have a different variation. Jeremy might. Whoever came and did this might have a slight variation, but we should end up in about the same general area, okay? So I'm going to just run you through how I do it, how I approach it. So, Carolyn, we're going to assume that Carolyn called me up and said, hey, I want you to come out and help me get my house sold. So I'm going to show you what I would do. So I would be asking her, okay, what's the address of your house? And then I'm going to pull up the MLS. I'm going to clear out all my criteria here. I like to start by pulling up and seeing if I can find a history for this house. So what's your address of your house?
45,
Okay.
86, West.
Okay, and you said it was in South Jordan? Riverton?
Yes.
South Jordan.
South Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm gonna come down here,
So you're on searches, residential full.
I'm on the full search.
How come yours looks different than mine?
There are two different views you can do on it. Mine's probably just
Yours says location at the top, mine says status.
oh, that's because I've scrolled down, that's all.
Oh, I didn't know you did that.
What was the street name?
Daybreak Rim Way.
Okay, so here's how I do it. So let me just kind of show you guys, and I'll have you get the address here for me in a second.
Okay.
But I always start out with, I want to try to see if I can find a history on it. So I just all I've put in is the house number and South Jordan. So there's 13 properties that have sold and active, under contract, whatever, any status. You'll notice I have any status selected. There's 13 of them. So I'm gonna hit view results and just see if her property comes up as one of those. And what was it?
Was there a timeline that you had or just any?
I have the whole MLS, yeah, anytime.
Okay.
Cause to begin with, I don't really care, I'm just wanting to see if I can find the history. So it was Daybreak Rimway,
Yeah, and
and is there a number associated with it? Cause this has a number 396.
no. It's, yeah, the house.
But is
and
this the
number
house?
is-
That's like a town hall, isn't it?
Yeah, we live in a townhome.
Oh, okay.
That must have
And there's-
been before it was, so we've only been the only owner. It was built in
There's
2019.
no number associated, like this has number 396?
Not that I'm aware of.
So, but does it look like this as a townhouse in
It's one of those.
one of these, okay?
Uh-huh.
Alright, so if I pull up this shows Preston Bradley Lavery, is that who?
No,
That's not who owns it, it's you?
that's
So,
who, if you go back,
Maybe that's the builder.
if you go back to the screen, that little pop-up that you just opened up, and you scroll down. No, that's not. Where were you? Oh, maybe you were just further down.
I was looking at this.
Okay, so my name is right there, under
Oh, right
assessee
there.
owner name,
Oh, there you go.
that's me.
Okay, cool,
but
so this is the right
That must
property.
have been the
Good.
person that,
Yeah, this is perfect.
we had it assessed, what's it called, when you refinance.
Gotcha. So that's fine. So this is the perfect example from 2 classes ago, the listing, where we talked about you can't always trust the tax records. This is a perfect example of why you can't trust
Look at the county roof.
the county records, because this is showing that here's the current owner, which is not correct, it sounds like, right? And
Right.
you can see we've got Carolyn's name here. So, and if I scroll down here,
Single
see-
family residence? It's not a single family residence.
well, like I say, we can't always trust the county records, so
Okay.
it's fine. But, okay, so this is the right property though, right here, right? So we've got it. So here's what I typically am gonna do, is for me, I'm gonna usually hit this print PDF. And then I'm gonna print this, and I'm gonna print it on this printer that's right outside the training room here.
Not really.
Okay, so you just put in the house number and the zip to get.
I actually just put in the city, but yeah, so for me, sometimes I would have even just put just the county. So remember, you're gonna hear me say this a lot today, it's an art, not a science.
Yeah.
So to some extent, like for whatever reason, today I decided to put in the city. Usually I would have just put in the county. I would have just put in Salt Lake County and seen how many come up. But for whatever reason, today I felt like, let's do the city.
Just one?
Yep. So, okay, so I've now printed this off. Now what I'm gonna do though before that is, I always just like to get a feel for the history of the property. So I like to click on right here where it shows history. And again, this is just me, but I just like to see, okay, what's going on with it? So we can see that the property was listed 2019, sold 2019, and if we go back on here, then we can see that she paid $439,513 for the house. So for whatever reason, for me, I just always kind of like to know that, okay? So we can know 2019 is when it was bought, $439 was the price, okay? Now, the other reason I print this off is because I want to have the style, the square footage, all that kind of stuff, okay? So we've got all that now, I printed it off, I've got it right here, and Carolyn, we'll have you help us with some of this. But so now I'm going to start over again, so I'm going to come up here, do full search, I'm going to clear my criteria out again, so everything's wiped out. So now, I'm gonna start doing, the way I'm gonna do my CMA is similar to how an appraiser would do it. So I'm gonna start it doing the same thing. So I'm gonna come up and say, I wanna see status of only solds. And I wanna get the same style of property. So this is a townhouse and it says it's a middle. But I'm just gonna get all townhouses. So I'm gonna come to the style here. I'm gonna get row, middle, and row end, okay? 'cause I want all the townhouses. So if you kind of watch as we do this, you're gonna see this number continue to go down. So with just sold properties of townhouses in the last year, because by default, when you put in sold, it defaults to a year, which we don't want it to go that far back, but I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
But in the last year, there's been 5,539 sold. Okay, well, clearly, we still gotta narrow that way down. So I like to go to view map here. From this view map, I wanna then get around that property. So for me, I usually will just go to this radius tool here, and I'm gonna set the radius. And I'm gonna say I want it to be, I'm gonna just do 1 mile, we may adjust it, but, and then I can either type in the address or the MLS number. And so since I have an MLS number, I'm gonna just put in her MLS number here from before
Okay, where did you go to get to here?
to the map.
You went
I clicked on view map on your left-hand side underneath the
to, okay.
number.
So now you can narrow down the time frame now, right, to 6 months?
Yes, that's probably the next step that we will do, is to do that. But to begin with, you can see now inside of this 1 mile radius, which I probably will end up tightening that again, but we'll see. But within the 1 mile radius, there's 85 properties that have sold in the last year, which again, we don't want the whole year. So, but I'm gonna start with that. So here's my 1 mile radius, so I'm gonna hide the map now. Then I'm gonna come down here to this sold date, and I'm gonna actually, rather than going back 6 months, like what an appraiser can do, is I'm gonna start by just saying, let's go back 3 months. And for me, again, this is back to where it's an art, not a science. Sometimes I do 4 months, sometimes I'll do 3. Today, for whatever reason, I'm just feeling, let's go back 3 months. So I back up, and I'm just gonna say to May 1st here.
MLS number again?
It's 1643365. Okay, so by putting that in, within a 1 mile radius, going back to May, we're down to how did we get to 124 from 85?
How did you adjust the,
Went to May of last year.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for that catch. Okay, so what did you say, James?
how did you adjust the sold date?
Taking it out.
So the sold date, if you just scroll down to it and click on this calendar here,
Mhm.
so, and then you can,
Did you do a year or you did 3 months?
so I initially, it defaults, as soon as you select sold, it defaults to a year. And then I just went and changed it, but I went back 3 months, but it was still at a year, so.
When you put in the MLS number in the radius tool, did you just put in the actual number?
Uh-huh.
For some reason, and you said it was 164.
No, yeah, 164. 3365.
And then you put set criteria?
Yep.
It's saying, no, search. 1643365.
Yeah, but you got 33675.
Oh, 36.
Now hit set criteria. You should-
Okay. That's
So then
7
you-
in there.
You just put in the MLS number and then the radius around
It
the
says-
house itself?
So you can either put in the address or MLS
Says I
number.
return more than 300 listings.
Yeah, it's because of your criteria you've
Your
got in there.
default is year.
Oh, I have to go back to that?
Yeah, you don't have to, or you didn't put townhouse or style or something. Okay, so we're at 27 now. So that's not horrible, but it's probably more than I want. So the next thing that I'm gonna do to narrow this down is square footage and year build. So I'm gonna come down here to year build, and the year build on this one is 2019. So as kind of a rule of thumb for me, the way I do it is the newer the property, the smaller the range I'm gonna use on year build. The older the property, the wider the range. So I'll include more years built. Does that make sense? So because this is 2019, I'm gonna probably do on year built maybe 2015 to current. So just, we can put in 2020, actually I'll just say 2023. Okay, so that brings us down to 12.
Did you want it to do 24?
No, I decided to go year built, because it was 2019, and I don't wanna include some that are just barely built, like, although, we could. Like, this back to art versus science thing, I just today feel like doing this. So square footage, the square footage on this one is 2282. So what should I do, what do you think range-wise? Go ahead.
No, why did you go back to 15 when it was built in 19? Why did you go back that far?
I don't know, I felt like it.
Okay.
Because it's an art.
Yeah, because it's an art, not a science. So I just
probably
keep,
gone maybe if it's 19,
yeah,
I would just almost do the same year, do 19 to.
so you could.
No, I don't think I would.
Yeah.
I could go back just a couple, but 15 seems far for me.
Yeah, and it might be, but
Okay.
for me, it's just, it could be a little far. Maybe I should have done 17, I don't know.
Like the time so.
So for the square feet, would you do
Yeah.
like within a few hundred square feet, 2,000 to 2,300 or something?
So good, yep, that's
Yeah.
exactly probably, and I probably would go to 2,400, actually, because it's almost 23 as it is. I might even go 25, but, so let's just see what happens. So I'm gonna put in 2,000 to 2,500. So to some extent, so that only gives us 2 now. So you could, so sometimes you look at it and I go, okay, maybe I was too narrow, I don't know, maybe it's totally fine too, like, but, because I'm not opposed to only having 2, I would prefer to probably have more than that. So, I'm trying to think of if I wanna change anything, probably do, so let me just take off, let's go to maybe 26, I don't wanna get too big.
For the style, did you say you chose both the townhouse
Yes.
options?
Yep,
Did you change the property type at all?
nope,
Okay.
I didn't use anything property there.
Well, what about the mid-row end? What if you just did townhome instead of mid-row end?
Well, you don't have
Wow.
a choice,
Just go right to,
well, those are the only
oh,
options.
they don't have it?
They
Yeah,
do
those-
on the other one.
Under property type, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that, we could try it, let's see if it changes anything. That doesn't, so, but that's fine, either way it would work.
Interesting.
So I don't like the idea of that we only have 2, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back a little farther, I'm gonna go back 1 more month and see, that picks up 1 more. So that's fine, let's just see what happens with that, because especially if they're close by, then that'll be great. So I'm gonna just hit view results. And we could actually, in fact, let me do it this way. I'm gonna view it on the map to see where they're at. So based on looking at this, Carolyn, where are these in relation to you in? Well, cause you're probably like somewhere like right in the middle of this, somewhere right,
Uh-huh.
are you out on this island?
No, we're not on the island.
And and
You see the roundabout, the circle?
right here,
Yep. We're just up that street.
So right in
No,
here?
to the
this way.
left, yeah. So we're in between those two streets.
Okay, so right here.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, now, one of the things, and I don't know Daybreak that well, does it matter if you're on the island versus not? Is
Yes.
that more desirable?
Uh-huh.
It looks like the one on the island sold for less.
Yeah, which, there could be a reason for that too, but I just was curious of that too. Cause that would play into it for me if I had more a bunch of them and like felt like, hey, the island makes a difference, then I just wouldn't use the ones on the island. But I think especially even just what Jaden's saying, and I didn't pay that close of attention, but yeah, they're actually
I'm just
It
surprised
sold
there
for
isn't
less.
more,
You're surprised what?
that there isn't more to choose. There's
Yeah,
only
I am
3.
too. Well, let's see what happens if we just went back even another month.
What dates did you put in again?
I just sold date, I put March, I just changed it to March 1st.
I'd go back to January. I don't know.
January might be too far though, but you could. So it said we picked up a 4th one, but where's it at? Not seeing it on the map here.
Where is it?
I don't know. That's all right.
Weird.
We'll just look at it here. So I'm good with 4 though. 4 works for me. So now, what we wanna do now then is we wanna take these 4, and then I like to use this agent full report. And what we're gonna do now, and so Carolyn, this part, we need you to be as objective as you can.
I have
But
353, I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
you what?
I have 353 matches, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So I have sold, I have townhouses, I have the date, you said the first to today.
But I don't have that date in, but that's.
Oh, well, do I just delete
Just
it?
click, yep,
Oh, okay.
because it'll automatically go till today.
Okay, and then I
So go
have
back up to the
self-jordan.
top. We have sold, townhouse. And did you do the view map like what I did?
I did. So
So,
click on radius,
well, clear this,
Or-
clear that one out first, click that X,
okay.
and click that X. Well, no, now you've got just 3, so there you go. So do height map and let's see what happens. There you go,
Okay,
now you got the same thing
4,
I have.
okay.
Okay,
So you want at least 4?
well, I'm probably only gonna use 3 of these. I might use 4. I might,
Well,
if
in
there.
the search, you want at least 4 though.
Oh, I
to choose
actually, for me, I kinda like having maybe 8 or 9
Oh.
would be ideal, although I'm not gonna force it either. Like, that's why I kinda played with it a little bit to try to see what else would come up, but I'm also not too concerned, cause really, if they were far away, or as we go through and look, if they're not similar, then I'm probably gonna mess with it, but,
So you selected all 4 of them?
yeah, so I'm just gonna look at all 4 of them.
Reports.
And what we wanna do now is we wanna look at these 4 to see, are they comparable? And so ultimately, what I wanna do, so on a scale, now, and this is the part I need you to be objective on. If it wasn't your house, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say the condition is?
It's like new,
Okay,
yeah.
so
I don't have little kids and
5?
on a scale of 1 to 10,
I'm just kidding, yes.
I mean,
I just said that to see if you'd agree with me or not, so
be
it's a
like,
5.
But need new carpet, new paint, anything like that, I mean,
I've
bad?
already painted
So scale of 1 to 10, what would you say it is?
like
8, 9, 10?
a 9.
9? Okay, so what we're gonna do now then is what we wanna do is we wanna look at, and this is where we'll maybe need a little bit of your help. So ideally for me, I would have gone and looked at her house. That way it's me deciding if it's the same condition. I'm not gonna let the seller decide if these are the same condition.
Objective,
Cause
yeah.
they're gonna, which by the way, let me say this. Every seller, just about every seller, thinks their house is better than everybody else's.
Right.
And so because of that, when we're doing this CMA, we're not looking to see who's gonna pay the highest price, because I already proved to you guys before, the home is worth more to the seller than it is to anybody else. And so I will tell the seller, we're not looking for the highest bidder on your house, cause you're it. We already have that bidder, you're it. We're looking for the second highest bidder. We're looking for the person who thinks your house is as close to worth what you think it is we're looking for that person who's as close to you as we can get. Cause every person that looks at your house, there's a value of that for that house to them. Meaning at the right price, they would make you an offer. So when we don't get an offer, that's that buyer saying, I'm nowhere near what you think your house is worth. And so we're just trying to find the person who is nearest to you, cause you're gonna be the highest bidder. And that was the proof of the 475 versus a 455. Like, she might think it's worth, I would pay 475. Well, of course you would, because it's exactly the way you want it. Like, and my example of when that really hit home for me is I had a neighbor that listed his house, and that guy, I'm telling you, I guarantee you, he didn't use me as his agent, but I guarantee you, he told his agent his house was worth more because of his yard. And he had a beautiful yard, and he worked in his yard constantly, like it was beautiful. He sold it, the people who bought the house, guess what they did to the yard? Tore it out, ripped it all up, changed it to how they wanted it. So the point being, in his mind, his house was worth so much because of his yard. Well, that wasn't, the buyer didn't think so because they ripped it out and changed all of it. Like, I was like, I should send him a picture because I guarantee you anything. So, we are just that's if, ideally, I would have already looked at her house before I put together the CMA. So, but we're just gonna have to rely on you for this one. So,
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna click on these pictures and I want you to kind of just tell us, is condition similar, better, or worse than yours? And again, we're now relying on the seller to tell us this, so keep in mind, like, we might look at it, she might say, oh, well, mine's better, and we might all look at it and be like, yeah, they're all the same. Like, I don't know that.
This one was built, which year? Same year?
I don't know, I haven't looked at that yet.
Okay.
But does condition look similar?
Yeah. I mean, it still looks like a new house.
Okay, good. So on this one, we're saying it's pretty similar, but so now let's look at, so for me, more important than beds and baths to begin with is just the square footage. So I'm first looking at, this one has, well, she's 2282, this is 2338, so 60 more square feet-ish. So, but close enough. And your build is 2019, so it's the same. So I would say we keep that one as a comparable, would you guys do? Yeah. So I'm gonna leave that one in there. Let's go to the next one here. This one here, so a little bit different, the exterior, but interior wise, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Somebody will afford a house that night.
Yeah, so probably, I mean, would you say this one's still a 9 too? I would. The only thing potentially on this one that I picked up that I would maybe be, is I can't really tell, can you tell with the
It feels smaller in
countertops?
the pictures to me, but you know, it's
Can't tell with countertops, what did you say?
it feels smaller.
Smaller? Oh, well, let's look at the square footage. A little bit, yeah. About 100 square feet less, so not a lot, but a little
I
less.
think I'd keep that.
So we'll keep that one. Next one. So
It's
this
gotta be
is,
smaller.
it's what?
This one's gotta be smaller.
Okay.
Cause I think it's only got 2 floors.
Which one was this one?
Let's see, this was the Kestrel Rise Road. And it's not that much smaller, 2249 versus 2282.
Isn't it? It's
I
a bin
wonder
unit.
if they're,
But it is broke, it's got more on the one level, this level than yours.
They look more
Cause you've
open.
got 4 levels, this has 3. That's what it's showing. And newer, 2022.
what if mine is, my information in the listing for me is wrong?
You
Can
can't
you
see
do
the
that?
inside of
Then
hers,
what we're
can we?
doing is not gonna work.
I guess I just,
We can't see the inside of hers, can we?
so for mine,
No.
there's on the first floor that you come in to, there's a garage, but there's also what's called a flex room that we paid extra to have them finish it. So wouldn't they add that into the square footage as like, I don't
Yeah,
know,
they
like
they have it.
office or
Well, they have 280 square feet on,
for that bottom
level.
floor?
So I think it's probably correct.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Okay, so now this one, when we go to March, sold for $629. So all of a sudden now we've gone from kind of a 590, 580, 585 to a, so this one I'm gonna be like, okay, why? Why is this one so much
And
more?
it's newer.
It is newer, so,
Well, the one that sold for $595 spent like 300 days on the market, and originally they were listed at that same $635.
okay.
So why did
So
this
this
one
one's
sell
out a
so
little
quickly
bit further. Yeah.
for 40,000 more.
Yeah, and at this point, I don't have an answer for you as to why that happened. So,
What's the
It was
square
holding
footage?
cash.
Is that close?
yeah, this one is 2249,
Oh,
about the same.
okay. I think I'd keep that.
Yeah, we can keep this one. More than likely, well, who knows? I don't know. Anytime the only reason I wouldn't potentially keep this one is like, and maybe even this one too, is they're both brand new. Well, oh, no, not that one. Was this one vacant still? Can't remember. Yeah. So anyway, okay, that's fine. So we can keep it. So what I would do now from here then is I would come to this and I would change from agent full report to client full report. And then I would print these off. Okay, and I would take those 4 solds, potentially. I might end up leaving out the one for the 6 whatever, but I might also leave it in. I just don't know yet. And I'll tell you why I don't know yet. But because we got a 630 and then the other thing is this is the older of them that sold too. So this sold in March. All the rest of these that was April, May, and July. So the fact that that one's older is one of the reasons I potentially would leave it out. But okay, so if you had to choose a price, so now think like an appraiser, and we're not gonna do it exactly like the appraiser, although I'll show you kind of what, we can kind of do it, I guess. This is an option, I don't like it, but again, this is just personal preference that I don't like it, is I'm gonna go to CMA report. And if I populate it with this data, I can put in the MLS number. And go. So now it's plugged in all of the information. And so based on this, if we were to do this like an appraiser, we're gonna come up with a number. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but what would, and even if you did, I don't know that it matters, but if you were gonna recommend to Carolyn what she should list her home just based on those 4 solds, what would you tell her? And everybody participates. So you guys on Zoom,
592.
unmute and tell me a number or throw it in the chat box, one of the two. But everybody give me a number. What would you tell her? And you can see 585,
How did you
Or,
get to the
sorry.
screen?
585, 579.9, and 594 on
You
this.
changed it to customer. How did you
You're-
get, did you change it to customer report or did
Oh,
you
you
do
changed
something?
it to
I changed the
CMA
CMA report
Oh.
under reports. So, give me a number. Jaden said 592. So, everybody else waits for somebody to say something first. So,
590.
590,
What were the prices again?
585, 580, and 594, and then 630.
Hey Russ, I'm sorry, I can't actually see it, but did it average those 4?
Populate subject to.
No,
Oh, it hasn't averaged the 4, because I usually take the average and then I add whatever I think to it.
okay.
Did somebody say 590 already?
Yeah, but that's okay, you can say it again,
I think 590.
okay? What about on Zoom? What about the rest of you? What do you think?
I'd say probably 595.
595,
590.
okay? Dylan, Mason, what do you, let's see.
All right, I said it in the chat, about 594.
594, Dylan, or Mason said, okay? Okay, so, anybody else have opinions?
I'll just say 599, Russ, 599.
Okay, so far we're between 590 and 599, Carolyn, is what we think. But, for me, we're not done yet.
I'm going
What?
592.
You're saying 592 now? Okay. All right, so right now we're between 590 and 599, okay? Now, so for me though, this gives us an idea. So now, under this CMA report, which personal preference, I don't like. I would never, for me, print this off and take it to the seller. I'm not saying you can't, I just personally don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is because I don't like the fact that it spit out a number. Because what I have found is it feels like the seller then gets attached to that number, 597, which is in the range you guys were saying. Go ahead, Jim.
How'd you get the adjustment values in there?
So it just threw them in.
Okay.
Because does yours not show the values?
No, I had to go in and add the adjustments and then it looks
Oh,
like. I
yeah,
have
so
to go
it
in
probably
and
added them
add
from
values.
default that I had is just CMA adjustments up here.
How do you get the subject property to show?
You have to, up here at the top, put in populate subject data. Okay, but like I said, I don't really like this one personally. If you like it, use it, but for me, I don't. So I always would print out this client full report and this is what I would take to them. Okay, and I'm gonna take this to them and say, okay, and then when I sat down with Carolyn, I would go through and say, okay, this one sold for $585, it's on Duckhorn Drive, it's same year built, the layout of it. So which FYI, this one is becoming a more important comp to me as I'm going through this, because the way her square footage is broken down is 368 at the top, this one's 436. Hers is 832, this is 841. Hers is 802, that's 800. Hers is 280, this is 251. So this one has that same bonus room and everything that you were talking about. So this comparable actually is probably the best of them for me, because it's the same type of a layout. Looks like,
There's just one more half bath up on that fourth floor on ours.
Same year
oh
built?
yeah, she's got a half bath up here that they don't, which that's
Yeah,
gonna
same year
factor
built.
into it a little bit, so. Okay, so but I would print these off and then I would sit down with this one and I'd say this one sold for 580. Little less square footage than what she has that doesn't have the upper room it looks like that she had, but as far as the other square footage and stuff, it's about the same. So I would kind of just go through that one, say it's 1 year older, which probably doesn't make any difference really. And then once we get into these ones, I would say this one's 2 years or 3 years newer. More square footage just on this one level, which could play into it. And then same thing with this one that sold for 630. Okay, but we're not done. So now that we've done that, the next step is I'm gonna come back here to refine search. I'm gonna leave everything the same. I'm gonna get rid of sold and I wanna look at under contract and backup. Now, here's my thinking on this. The reason I wanna do that is because for me, those solds, like I already told you, that's the past. You know, is the market different today than it was in March?
Yeah.
I mean, a little. But could be that it's gone up, it's gone down, I don't know. It's just, for me, that tells me what's happened in the past. The under contracts are gonna tell me what are buyers that were out looking most recently willing to pay, what attracted them, what price. Well, and you can see when I do under contract and backup, there's none. So now let me tell you what that does for me. For me, what that says is one of two things. Either there's not very many properties for sale in this area, or two, that there's no buyers right now, which could be the difference of the price in March versus today.
I think there's no buyers right now.
And that very well could be. That could be why in March there may have been more people buying, which they were willing to pay $630, and that today they were down to the $585.
When you look at active, it adds 7. So
Okay,
let's
so
say
that's the
12.
next step. So before we get to that, if there had been under contracts and backups, I would have viewed the results. I would have gone through to look at those to see, are they comparable? I would have done the same thing we did with the solds and figured out 3 or 4 of those, 2, 3 or 4 of those that I could keep to show Carolyn to say, here's what buyers that are under contract were willing to pay, and we would have seen what price they were at. Make sense? But since there's not any, we're just gonna skip that, and then we're gonna now go to what Jaden was saying, is let's go to the actives. And when I go to active, I'm getting 6. Did you say you got 7?
Yeah, when I did active and under contracts and everything, it showed me 12. So that's with all of the boxes checked.
All of these?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
active, sold,
So you just wanna look at
backup.
Oh, yeah, I don't want that.
active right now.
I only wanna see actives. So for actives, we've got 6. So now, so just let me pause for a minute. If there are 0 under contract in the since March, so March till today is 5 months, right? In the last 5 months, how many have sold?
3.
There were 4.
4.
Wasn't there 4?
Oh, since March.
Yeah, since
'cause
March,
you're
there were
counting the
4.
Okay.
There's none under contract, but there's 6 for sale. So just think supply and demand economics. What would that tell you should be happening to the price of this property?
Aggressively a little lower.
Lower.
Yeah.
So let's see if this changes your opinion at all of the value. So we were 690 to 699. Let's see if these actives, because here's the thing. You gotta think of it right now is, for me, the fact that there's nothing under contract right now tells me there's probably not a lot of buyers looking right now. So what that means is, we're about to look at 6 properties that are your competition if you put your house on the market.
Yeah.
And so what we've gotta do, and this is the conversation I wanna have with the sellers, what we've gotta do is we've gotta price your house of these 6 to be the best value. Doesn't have to be the lowest price, but it's gotta be the best value. Because the buyers are gonna go out and value shop. They're gonna go out and look at these 6 properties, and if they make an offer, they're gonna make an offer on the one that feels the best to them. But part of what's gonna play into that is which one they feel like is the best value. Make sense? So let's take a look now. So now, for these 6, I'm gonna do the same thing. I just go to that agent full report. And we look, the first one here is 549, so 550. Little bit more square footage, and same kind of a thing is I would typically click on this and we would go through the condition of it to see, I don't wanna take the time to go too deep in that way, but if it were me doing it, I would be going through this really trying to figure out, is that a comparable property? So at 550. Which interesting though, isn't that kind of interesting that what we are already seeing is prices in her area have gone down since March, unfortunately.
Well, it's been on the market for 140.
So yeah, so what I would wanna look at with that then is I'd say, okay, it's been 148 days on the market, let's look at the history. So they started at 550, went to 525, then went back up to 550? What the heck? Oh, probably went up to 550 because now they're offering seller financing, it looks like.
Oh.
Yeah, seller finance is available. So that's why they're saying, hey, let's up the price back to 550. Oh, I guess if I'd have looked right here, we could have already seen that. But they put it back up to 550, but saying we'll do seller finance. So, okay. The next one is at 600, been 42 days on the market. Let's look at the history, started at 635, which you could see why they would have started potentially at that. So I would be using this with Carolyn to show her why the other one was at 550, went down to 525, then went, how long was that at 525? Let's look at that real quick, because that's gonna factor in too. So they dropped it on May 5th to 525. Ugh, you sure you wanna sell your house?
Yeah.
Don't sell it. Or you should have sold it in March.
Yeah.
But so from May till July was at, now here's the thing though. Here's the other thing to keep in mind. And this is a balancing act here because if there are no buyers, it almost doesn't matter what our price is. If nobody's looking right now in that area for those properties, it almost doesn't matter what your price is because there's nobody to buy it anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Very
Now,
interesting what the other ones are now.
Well, so, and I'm not saying that you don't still price it accordingly, because it's this balance, because if your competition keeps dropping in price, to get yours sold, you're gonna have to do that as well. The only thing though that could play into this that would factor as well, interest rates have come down a bit.
Yeah.
If they continue to come down, that's gonna bring buyers out of the woodwork, and so then you would have to balance it with, okay, do I wait though? Do I price it and let these lower ones sell so that they're now gone, so that then the buyers would want mine? The problem is we don't have a crystal ball to know when are they gonna show up.
Yeah.
Does that Make sense? Okay, so let's go back to this. So I would say we would have looked at this 550, we looked at the 600, which we all already know that's still way too high.
How long was that $600,000 one?
The 600 is 42 days on the market. They started at 635 though. And
What, is there anything different with that one?
well, so this is even Daybreak Rim Way. So this is one of your neighbors.
So
4504.
Is it the same size and stuff? I'm just curious.
It's 2,400 it says, but it's got, this one's saying it has a basement. That almost looks like they double entered that and that it's not really that, I don't know though. Is it possible that some of them have a
I
basement?
don't think so.
Cause this is on Daybreak Rim Way
I
too,
don't
like
think
it's,
so.
and it's 4504 and you're 4586, so it's like right there. Well, I guess let's see if we can look at the pictures here real quick. Cause is this kind of where your building is one of these?
Yeah, we're farther back.
Oh, just further back this way?
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
So, but it's gonna be very similar layout stuff probably, is it? Does yours have,
No, it's not split level like that.
oh, okay. So it is a little bit different of
Mhm,
a layout.
yeah.
Is this one in unit or something different? Cause maybe they just did a slightly different floor plan on in
Yeah.
units or something like
Yeah,
that.
probably. It is an end. But-
Is yours
Okay.
an end or?
But, so this one's at 600, we already saw. Next one's at 614, started at 630. And this was 647. Good luck with that one.
How long
So,
have these been on the market though?
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's so
sorry.
weird.
This one's 3 days on the market.
Oh, I don't know what they're thinking, but okay.
This one's, well, what they're thinking is,
Just
what,
drop the
hey, I'll
price.
tell you what they're thinking is, they decided to get an appraisal done. The appraiser came in and went and looked at the one at 630 and said, your house is worth
I'm
6.
not a very good
30.
appraiser.
Well, but that's my point that I started with of saying, an appraiser does a great job of saying what it was. Like in March, you probably could, I feel bad, dude, I wish we would not have done your CMA now.
That's okay.
But I'm like,
At least you
in
know where
March,
you're
I
at.
don't have to sell right now.
you could have sold for probably 625 or at least, or 630 in March. Today,
I
well,
would just
I'm
watch
not
and
gonna
see
say,
what
you
you
guys
see.
tell me, what do you think? And if I were sitting down with the seller, I would be emphasizing this property was at 550, it's, went down to 525, went back up to 550, they're now, typically when people start offering seller financing, it's because they're motivated and they don't wanna keep coming down on their price anymore, and they're saying, well, if somebody will pay me, and this one does say at 5% interest with $100,000 down and a 5-year balloon, and you may find somebody that would do that, but
I'm friends with one of the realtors in the neighborhood there that also lives there. I think it might have been this house, I can't remember, but there's a divorce and there's a situation where
Could be.
there's a lot of emotions.
yeah, it could be. So, okay, so now,
They are motivated.
Bad feelings going around.
so now you guys tell me, so you guys all thought when we looked at the solds, 590 to 599. What do you think now?
I don't think so. I would take
Change-
that
but-
$600,000 one.
Can you
out of
see
the
now
540.
though why I'm saying I feel like we do a better job of valuing property? Cause an appraiser would have, now depending on the appraiser, but most appraisers would have probably valued it at around 590 as well. But unfortunately, they're not buying the property. We gotta get somebody
What I'm
that
learning
is.
is just look at the solds first, at the time frame.
Mhm.
Look at the sold first before you see what's on the market.
I'm gonna show you one other thing that I do as well. We're gonna have time to do it, it looks like, so. What do you guys think now? Nobody wants to tell you what they think your house is worth now, Carol.
Well, I think over here I pulled up different comparables than what you have. I don't know why, but based on what I'm seeing over here, I'd say, because here it's showing I have 7, and I think I may have maybe just went back another month, but like
Well,
that
but
one's
active
at-
shouldn't matter. Active, if the only thing, it would have to be you've got something different in,
because these aren't
Show them those comparables.
Because those are all actives, right?
Yeah, these are all actives.
Show them that comparable.
So there's a
Gotcha.
525, but so go back, hit refine search first.
I was
Let me
kind of
see if you
afraid
can
of this
see what
because
your,
a neighbor who has their house
so
for
click
sale
on the
and
search
he's actually
criteria.
already eaten now, so it's empty.
It's, yeah, so,
I think people are waiting,
so
Is it
if
September
you view the
18th
map,
that the feds are meeting
it still
again?
shows
I think so. But it's dropped to percent, but
just things within this area.
I think people are waiting to see.
And that 549 one is over
I mean,
here.
because the
so
news
but
is
go
saying that.
to, do your radius
One
here.
other thing I've read is September, yeah,
And
so
set
I don't know
radius,
why.
what did you put in?
I mean, I could be all ready to go,
Understand that.
pull the trigger, but
So, but it does almost look like you just maybe went a little further out and picked up, for some reason, it went a little further out and picked up
Yeah.
one property.
yeah,
But
I
at
have been.
525, right?
Doesn't that have something to do with it?
Okay, so
I'm just looking here.
Commit.
like,
what's the
just
price?
say
What would you tell her to
what
list it at?
Mm-hmm.
I'd still say close to 590 based on what I'm seeing here, not what I saw there.
Cause are all of yours
Yeah, there's
actives?
just right around where her house is, there's one at 640. This one was a couple days on the market, I think.
Yeah, 3 days, I have that one.
What is the one for 3 that's been on for 3 days?
But,
They're kind of,
okay, so Jaden's still saying 590, what about the rest of you? And then I'll give you my opinion, but even not yet, I'm going to, but I'm gonna do one other thing first.
I can sell it really fast for her for $4.99.
Okay, so we got,
I'm still $5.99. I'm going $5.99.
You're
The market's all over the place.
you're sticking with 599, okay?
$5.99.
What about the rest of you? Come on, commit.
what do you need?
What?
No, if you had to sell it now.
540? They don't wanna hurt your feelings is why, but Carla just said
It's
540.
okay, it's all right.
Probably come down to 575.
575? All right. I will tell you, for me right now, this one is scaring me.
Yeah.
So,
This particular.
well, the fact that this one was
Yeah.
listed at 525 and it still didn't, from May, for 2 months it was at 525, still didn't sell.
And that's on.
What is your motivation to sell this house?
It is just to move closer to Salt Lake City, to the
Yeah, so
mountains.
she's not in a scenario that she has to, and in
Well, I'm
fact,
tired of my adult children living with me.
Yeah.
I want them to be in the basement.
Yeah.
I wanna get something that I
Have to
can,
pay them.
so
that they
how,
can pay the rent and rent.
$50,000 worth of, have them not in their own spot?
No.
50 or 60,000?
No.
So, like, to some extent for me, I would, if this were me for real and I were telling her, I would be like, I would wait. I wouldn't put it
I
on the
know,
market
that's
right
what
now.
Yeah.
Because
I would
I
put that on
think, now, here's the problem though. Let me tell you the problem with that though. The challenge with that is, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that the home prices just keep coming down. So if you're good with the fact of, hey, if they keep coming down, you'll just stay there, then I would wait. Because if though, not if, when rates do tick down another 0.5%, this is probably gonna go back up to 630 pretty quick. But here's the challenge, like, I also don't wanna convince her that that's gonna happen because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen. All I know is that what scared me was when I did that search and there was no under contracts in that
Yeah.
1 mile
That's
radius.
what I've been.
Now, so here's what I would do though, before I actually fully commit to what I would say, is let me show you what I'm gonna do. So far, we've been doing all of this the way that an appraiser does it. I actually wanna do this a little bit differently. So I'm gonna open up a new tab here using all the same information. But I'm gonna come back here to refine the search. I still want active properties, I still want townhouses. I actually still want really all of this information that we have in there, I'm good with it. I just let me ask it this way. when a buyer goes to buy, are they gonna say, I only wanna look at houses inside of this radius that I pulled up? No, what are they gonna say?
They want
I'll
a
look
general
urban
area.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, I wanna be somewhere that, like, we could say, I wanna just look at all of Daybreak, and we may have all of Daybreak included in this, I don't know if we quite do or not.
We don't have the other side of Mountain View corridor.
Okay,
And
so,
We've got a whole bunch of new, well, those are all brand new though, but
okay, so, but I'm just, but that's okay, brand new is gonna factor into it, because if a buyer can go get brand new for less, they'll take it
right,
over yours.
right.
Go ahead.
Tell me about, I live on one side of Timpanogos and did a CMA, but I did not include the other side of Timpanogos. And because an agent told me, no, you can't do that. You know, you have to stay in that neighborhood. And I'm just going, well, Timpanogos is right there. And I've got more of a criteria going on the other side. Well, we didn't consider the other side, but they were.
Well, so the question I would have is when a buyer's looking, will they look at both sides? Or, meaning, of
And I'm
course,
saying, yeah, they would.
meaning, to some extent, let me be extreme. Is somebody that's looking for a property in Sandy gonna consider one in Magna?
Probably not.
But would somebody in Magna consider one in Sandy?
Yeah.
Probably. Now, I grew up and did all my junior high and high school, so I can pick on Magna all I want. Like, I went to Cyprus, I'm a proud pirate here. But I will tell you, like, there are some that would say no. But as a general rule, you can say, kind of think of some of those barriers. Like, somebody that wants to live on the other side of 23rd East wouldn't look on this side of 23rd East. But somebody on this side of 23rd East might look over there. And also keep in mind, price is gonna factor into it as well. So I would say I get the thinking of saying, you know, scratch the other side of Timpanogos, but I would also say, like we're doing here, I'm gonna include a much bigger.
Well, now I would include it definitely, because I know there's gonna be a temple built over there, so their property's gonna be
worth more, yeah.
way worth more.
So anyway, okay, so if we do the same concept here of I'm just saying, okay, I'm gonna get this bigger area now, and I might even change this and make it even bigger, but I'm gonna now hide the map. We've got 12 active properties, but really what I wanna see is under contract or backup.
Did you click on the
There's still
polygon
none.
view?
What?
How did you get that, the rectangle view? How did you get it?
So I'll show you, because I'm gonna clear it out right now. So I'm gonna start over again even. So I'm gonna X out of that. I clicked on this one right here, the polygon one. And then that one just does like a more point and click kind of a thing. So I'm gonna come all the way over. I'm gonna still keep this as a barrier. I'm just gonna widen this out a bit. And we may even go even bigger than this if I still get nothing. But let me hide that. So there's 2 in that area that are under contract, but look at that. I mean, we're outside of Daybreak now too, but 468 and 497 is where so again, let me come back. Look at how big of an area we're searching in here. And there's only 2 that are under contract in that whole area. I mean, to some extent, we could even make that bigger. I'll just do it like this and go, okay, let's even go past Mountain View here. Or I guess that's bigger. But look at where most of them are at, is clear down in here, outside of Daybreak.
Yeah.
And there's 9,
So
Do
it's
you
further
click on it and
south
pull
than
it?
Daybreak?
It's just moving the thing.
but they're nothing even close to 500. So ultimately, what kind of I'm seeing from this is just, right now, there are no buyers willing to pay the price for Daybreak. So you're either one of 2 things. Either you're dropping your price to 480, or, I mean, you could maybe do 500, but, so like to some extent, Hal, when you were kidding, I'm like, I think you're right. Like, if it were me, I would be telling you, don't sell right now. And the only reason I'm saying don't sell right now is because the one's at 550. So if you're gonna put it on, like, when a buyer shows up, which one are they buying?
The one that are for something down there.
Well, but no, in Daybreak.
Oh, and David.
The one that's at
They'll be the
550.
They're gonna buy that
550, yeah.
550. And then the next one up was what?
It was like 590,
I
right?
don't remember what it was. Let me go back out of here and just.
So like 540 was still too high, huh?
Yeah, there was a 550.
Let's give us your final number, Russ.
Well, for me, I would be saying if you wanna get it sold right now, you're probably gonna have to be 500. If you wanna get it sold right now, that's probably the price because of all
Take
of
it
these
from here.
other.
Let's see, I wanna see that number.
I mean, here's this, if you were to ask me, I would tell you, this is probably the next property that's gonna sell, is this 498, and then the probably this. I mean, I'm not looking at condition on some of these, but there's a 519, like for me, if you list her property, anything above 550 even, you're probably just sitting. Unless, the only caveat to that would be, if all of a sudden 5 buyers jump on the market this week, then yeah, you could,
Well, only
Get
if
it.
they want
Well,
Daybreak though, cause
still
they could go a little bit different.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure. So, yeah, ooh.
Would you wait till September 18th or whatever it is, they're maybe
see what
lower
the
the
interest rates do.
interest rate again?
Yeah,
Just see what.
so the hard part is the interest rates that the feds are doing doesn't necessarily mean the mortgage rates will
Mm,
adjust. More so, if you watched the day that the rates really took a dive, what happened to the stock market? Stock market tanked. It's like ultimately, the interest rates are more worried about inflation and recession. Like, I hate to say it, but the best thing that could happen for real estate would be a recession. Like, we kind of need to see the stock market keep going down and all that, because then there is when they're gonna be like, okay, we gotta get the interest rates down to get the economy ramped back up again. So I would say for me, if I were you, I would keep an eye on those under contracts over the next few months and I would wait to see, even these actives, keep an eye on the actives. As soon as you're seeing they're all wiped out, these lower price ones are wiped out, and there's people starting to come onto them, that's when I'd go, okay, because I think what your house is worth today is probably closer to 500, but that could change in a couple of months. I might be, oh no, now it's worth 590. But right now, there's just no buyers out there. That's the problem. So like to some extent, it almost feels like you do have to be below 500 if you really wanted to get it sold.
If you're motivated. Or wouldn't she, cause she wants
But you gotta
to buy
remember,
another house?
I mean, you paid that's why I always like to look at this. You paid 439, you got equity, let's go 480.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, can there be a balance because she wants to buy another house?
Well, that's the question.
Yeah,
So that's why if she was in a scenario of like, no, I have to get it sold, I would be telling her today, plan on it being selling for about 500 then, unfortunately. But if you don't have to sell it, I would be saying, don't
well, she
sell it.
wouldn't wanna wait too long, so the new house is too much. Like, she wants to sell to buy another one.
That's
the
the balancing
balance,
act, cause that is the thing, is when yours goes back up, depending on where you're buying, those might go up. And so that is something to consider as well, is, you know, especially if you're going, and I don't know what your plan is, but if you're going into a higher priced house that is looking like this as well, that it's like, hey, I could maybe make a good deal on, yes, I'm gonna lose my shorts on this end, but I'm gonna make up for it when the tide rises, it's gonna rise higher over here than it did here. Does that make sense? That could be a consideration as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Carolines know how to look into the future.
That's right. So anyway,
Wish I had a crystal
all right,
ball.
Gotta go see a psychic real quick.
questions? Thoughts? Do you want this old MLS printout? No, just throw it away. Sorry to depress you,
It's all.
but it's actually better than, I mean, at least you know, because otherwise, if we only looked at the solds, we would have been like, yeah, list it for 590, and then you would just sit.
Maybe that's all those real estate
That's it.
agents, that was the song. Oh, look, I saw this.
Well, whether they did or didn't, the problem is a seller is gonna see it and be like, well, I should be able to get that.
Yeah.
So, and for me, especially the fact of this 549 one that was 525 and then put it back up, like they've realized, like even 525 is not working in that area right now. Cause I mean, when you look at this, it's not like it's bad, like it's good condition, like it's good looking.
How much did they wanna do the seller finance, 100,000 and 5%?
They want 100,000 down, 5%.
With their 5-year cooling.
So to some extent, it's like, you know, well, 550, I don't know if I would do, I don't know, maybe. I mean, in some ways, it's like, that could be a good investment if in the next few months, the rates come down a little bit more and the buyers come out of the woodwork, all of a sudden you could be up to 600 again, but for whatever, you know, so if I could buy it for 550 and turn around and sell it again, but that's probably not quite enough. Anyway, all right, what other questions, thoughts, comments?
Russ, I just wanted Caroline to know that I was using humor to disguise truth when I said 499. At least I made everybody laugh, you know.
You did, but I actually didn't laugh because I was kind of like, I think I agree. I agree with you.
No, all good. Thanks very much.
Okay, all right, so next week's class, Tuesday, is Rep C, I don't remember which one. Oh, I think it's Jason doing the Rep C workshop. So,
That'll be good too, since all the changes.
yeah. So,
That'll be recorded.
yes. Okay. Oh, I went to tell you and then I got distracted there, sorry. I said Rep C workshop, right? Next week? Yeah, Rep C workshop and Jason will be teaching that one, so. Okay, thanks for being here. Have an awesome rest of your day. For you guys on the Zoom, if you didn't throw your name in the chat box, do it real quick before I end the meeting, but I think you guys all did, so. Anyway, have a
Thanks very much. Have a great day.
awesome rest of your day. See ya.
Thank you.